Hello, hello.
Welcome, welcome, everyone. How's everyone doing?
How's it going, everybody? Meta, can you hear me? Peapods, can you hear me? Intern, Peapods, Meta
Yes,
Yeah,
World.
I
I'm
can hear
here.
you.
Very nice to meet you. Meta, you there too?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Chill, you there too?
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Awesome. Yeah, I can hear everybody. It's very nice. Go ahead, Chill.
Hey, well, welcome everyone to the spaces today. Before we even jump into anything, before we even get started, figured the best place for us to kind of kick things off is just to give an intro for those that might need it. So I guess we can start with Solomon if you want to go first, Peapod,
Yeah,
Intern, and then
absolutely.
and then Meta, and then we can kick things off.
Yeah, absolutely. So today's supposed to be a space to sort of get to know Peapod Finance, also to get to know Elastic Finance, how both projects are operating, or why the partnership was formed, and why that's good for the crypto space. And so I'm one of the founders of Elastic Finance. I've been in the cryptocurrency space for at least 13 years now. They call me a baby dinosaur because when I started, I was very young. I was right out of college. I learned about Bitcoin, learned about cryptocurrencies. And so the reason why I entered the space was to sort of try and build a decentralized stablecoin. And so that took me on a journey of getting to know a number of projects and help out a number of projects that include BitShares and, of course, Ampleforth. And so out of that experience, the Elastic protocol and the idea around it to sort of create amplified yield for the crypto space was born. And so we can get into that and all of that, but that's sort of what, my journey in a nutshell. And I'm happy to be here.
Hey, very nice. Appreciate it. Peapod.
Yeah, sure. So I'm one of the founding members of the team. There's six of us on the team across different time zones. Meta and I are both in Australia. Um, we've all sort of had a lot of sort of experience in DeFi in particular. But myself sort of been in this space for about 4 years. So relatively new compared to Solomon. I'm just glad to hear that he's been around so long. But really jumped straight into it, and I just love the space, love DeFi. So it's been my life for the last 4 years, advising on different projects and sort of
Yeah,
helping conceptualize new projects and what can be done. Obviously, Peapods is one of my babies that I'm very proud of, and yeah, we love this space. So very happy to work with you guys as well. Loved it working
absolutely.
with other innovators in the space.
Man, something we're all proud of, and
Absolutely.
we'll get into that a little bit more as we get deeper into the space. Let's finish off with Meta. I love the name by the way,
Yeah,
Meta
Meta
World
World's
Peas.
Peas is brilliant. Love
I
it.
love it.
Creativity on 100.
It's it's my favorite thing is when I jump into a new BD group or someone joins the Telegram and they comment on it, instantly makes me like a person much better straight away just because they recognize the name. Yeah, look, so I've been dabbling in crypto since like 2017. I put in bits and pieces and lost everything and came back around 2020 and really put it 2019 probably and put in a real focus on getting an understanding of everything that I did wrong the first time around and put a lot of time and effort into understanding the market, upskilling my knowledge, and then some point through COVID became full time and yeah, much similar to Intern, just really put a focus into trying to make projects as good as I possibly could. So, you'd see an opportunity with a project that's out there and you'd see areas they could improve and just trying to slowly find your way in through that way to help projects get better. And then from that evolved into advising, which then over time culminated in the team all collectively coming together on a project that, we're now really passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sort of that process, I think, for a lot of folks that are actually in the space trying to innovate. You sort of get to know a lot of people, you sort of form groups, and out of that, typically projects do form, and I think that's happened a couple of times with me. So,
Yeah, unironically in it for the tech.
right.
And that's what's so crazy about both EeFi and Peas, right? Looking at both is they're both first of their kind, right? This is on the cutting edge of innovation. I mean, there aren't many guarantees in crypto, but one guarantee is volatility, and that's the focus of Peas, of course. And then of course with EeFi, you have the resiliency of Ample, and that being such a powerful asset, undervalued, and then of course EeFi, kind of taking that and using it to its advantage. So I mean, that's really the core of this whole spaces. So for any of you just joining, appreciate you guys for attending. Feel free to like, retweet the space, get the word out. But really, the focus of this space is really just to talk about Peas, EeFi, and how they can and the synergy between the two projects. So I guess the best place to start, we'll kind of start off with Peas here. Just kind of walk us through the story of how this came about. I
Yeah.
mean, I know you kind of shed a little bit of light on that just a few moments ago, but just how did it come together?
Well, the team sort of assembled, as Meta said. We sort of had all known each other in the space. I probably knew 4 of the 6 team members, but everyone had worked together in some capacity, and sort of pulled this team together around the concept. We initially focused a lot more on index creation. So the idea being that we could create this infinite arbitrage opportunity by creating a vault, putting tokens into that vault, making that vault liquid, such that you can get an arbitrage process between the net asset value of the tokens that you put into the vault and the liquid receipt token. So we initially wanted to focus around more index style stuff, so putting multiple tokens into the vault, but then quickly pivoted, probably even before launch, more around single asset tokens, and especially because on mainnet that we knew that the gas process to create this arbitrage from multiple tokens was going to be quite a lot. But even that the concept worked, and actually worked extremely well, even with single assets. So that's very similar to the vault that you guys have created, the EeFi vault, where you just put the one token in and then create that arbitrage opportunity. So we coined that volatility farming. It was the first in the space. No one had sort of come up with that concept before, it's sort of was the conception.
Yeah, and Intern, just to sort of bolster so everybody understands. So the EeFi token, when we were designing the flywheel, it was never meant to be deposited. That was something that we were looking to do a vault for EeFi specifically, maybe a year and a half to 2 years after we launched the protocol. But the fact that we discovered Peapods and what you guys had done in terms of monetizing volatility and allowing for single side assets to earn, that was for us, it was like I couldn't believe it, to be honest with you. I couldn't believe that somebody had figured out how to do for an asset that's not necessarily designed to be deposited, that there was a way to do that. And so for us, it was brilliant. So yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. And that is really one of the innovations that we bring, is that you can put any ERC20 or 404 or anything that has an ERC20 interface. You can put that into our pod. Could be rebasing, could be whatever. And as long as it has a path back to be arbitraged to another liquidity pool, so it could still be a staked derivative that itself isn't liquid, but as long as that can then be unstaked to a liquid format, we can create this arbitrage opportunity. So effectively, what it becomes is like a free liquidity mining incentive program for any protocol to tap into. Exactly. So it's sort of like self-sustainable. It's all, you don't have to throw any rewards at the pool to attract the liquidity. It's sort of all done through the mechanism and through the Peas incentive. And also the other aspect of it that, the EeFi. So do you say EeFi or EeFi? You say EeFi.
Oh, EeFi, yeah, EeFi.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it, EeFi.
So the PEFi is actually also a yielding derivative of EeFi. So there's also sort of creating that extra utility there that people not necessarily are coming into the pod to provide liquidity and earn the P side of it. They could also be earning more EeFi by wrapping into the pod and sort of tapping into its nature of sort of self-accruing value to the pod.
And intern, before you go, Choate, so I'd like to know, who did you all start with? I'm curious to know, like, who'd you bring the idea to in terms of, hey, you guys might want to check us out, try us out. What was that like? The process of getting projects on board to actually try this out.
Well, the other interesting sort of way that we launched was very much stealth. So we didn't, and I mean, I believe Meta sort of insinuated that sort of we all have alts on CT, and we have quite an extensive network, but we didn't actually tap into any of that on purpose. So it was basically meant to be a stealth launch. We were going to start it, add some of our own TVL and just sort of prove out the concept. But it sort of snowballed really quite quickly. So we didn't pay any influencers. We weren't really even leveraging sort of our main accounts to spread the word. It sort of was all very organic, the way that we grew. We also launched fully diluted. There was no sort of locked tokens. We didn't have any marketing treasury or anything. So yeah, every pod that we've sort of accrued has all been very organic. And then Meta and myself obviously have been very much in the business development mindset the last couple of weeks, but also since inception, talking with other protocols and working on these synergies and, how we can help other protocols attract liquidity and sticky TVL as well as another aspect of it, which is great for the other protocol as well. So sort of explaining that story and how we can work synergistically with those other projects.
Literally, sustainability as a service is how I like to think about it.
That's a great way of putting it. I love it.
Parabola.
So with all of that in mind, as far as P's goes, now that we kind of have the general idea of what that can bring to any project, let's kind of now put that in terms of what that means for EeFi. So I guess Solomon, I mean, if you want to kind of intro and give the rundown for EeFi, and then we can kind of walk everyone through how P's is involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so the Elastic Finance DAO, which is the DAO behind the Elastic Protocol, so we decided to turn or essentially build a yield strategy protocol where people can come and earn yield, but more specifically, amplify and spread that yield or earn it across any kind of market condition. And essentially, what we wanted to do was uh, build a number of yield strategies that would essentially, implement that or allow people to get that amplified yield. And so, EeFi as a token was key to making that happen. The way that it's minted, distributed, and burned within our premier, flagship strategy, which is the Elastic Vault. Uh, that was supposed to be the foundation on which we can build other yield strategies or attach yield strategies to that protocol that would essentially allow people to get that amplified yield. And so EeFi as a token was always supposed to be just attached to people being able to get that amplified yield, but it was never supposed to be a deposit token. We thought about it being a deposit token, but we didn't think we would have any, like as I said earlier, we didn't think we would really have any type of a vault strategy that would allow us to do that in the beginning. And so we sort of pushed it off to, oh, we'll figure it out later because it doesn't necessarily need to be deposited. But then again, Peapods was discovered. And so for us, again, it was for us, it's brilliant because now instead of people just sitting around holding the EeFi token, waiting to sell or waiting for more utility to come around outside of just number go up, they can actually utilize it. They can actually utilize it to earn more within the Peapod ecosystem. And so that's sort of where that synergy is at. That not only do you have this asset that's meant to deliver amplified yield, but it can also be deposited to earn more yield in a ecosystem that is attached to real yield, not a Ponzi, not a not anything that's detrimental to the token, but is actually beneficial to the token. And so I think that's where the synergy is that volatility farming allows for EeFi to itself be deposited.
And that,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
perfect.
go
And
ahead.
I've just seen that. Have we got about 10% of your TVL? Is your market cap 24 million or so? Because we've got
Uh,
2.4 million TVL in the pod.
so there's I believe there's a lot that is deposited, but just keep in mind that we haven't minted all of the 34 I
Yeah,
think about
okay.
34 35,000 tokens that are, but a lot of that is minted will be also deposited
Yeah.
into the Peapods vault, or the Peapod EeFi Peapod vault that we have.
Yeah.
So
But
yes,
I guess I was just saying, yeah, it's great that so that would be of the circulating supply, but it's just great the adoption rate. So your team,
yeah,
your community is clearly rallied around the pod, which is great, and it's
absolutely.
delivering
And
some good metrics, and it's our top performing pod at the moment. So congratulations on that as well.
appreciate it. Yeah.
And I mean, with that in mind, just to dig a little deeper on that, Solomon, for a moment, because a part of the mechanics that make EeFi so innovative and so revolutionary is number one, how Ample is involved in that process, but
Yeah.
number two, I think for me is the thing that stands out the most, and the thing that I like to talk about the most is the deflationary aspect of EeFi. And with
Yeah.
Peas also has that deflationary aspect, and I think that's what makes these two protocols, so uh, makes these two protocols like basically powerhouses coming together, right?
Yeah.
Um, but to
It's
focus
funny
on,
because I think it's funny, Chill, because I think, and you have to excuse me, but I think what came out of the whole 2021 debacle with a lot of the Olympus forks and just the inflationary nature of the rebase rate sort of made everybody go go back to the drawing board and see, okay, how can we make the most deflationary protocols the world has ever seen? I think everybody sort of did that after those 2 years. Is like trying to find out, how can we get rid of tokens? Like, we understand how we can inflate tokens, but how can we do the complete opposite in the most innovative ways? And so I commend Peapods for figuring out their way, and obviously we figured out ours.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love your mechanism too. It's really great, and you guys have already done some really big burns, haven't you?
Oh yeah, and we got more to come. We got a lot more to come. So
Yeah,
And
amazing.
that's why I wanted to kind of touch on the deflation, because I mean, when you look at the way things are set up now from a supply standpoint, we've only had two of the four flywheels set in place, right? Or should I say
yeah,
three? Bonds have started
next week. Next week.
next week. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, we only have two of the four flywheels, and like you mentioned, intern, we've had some of the biggest burns already. In fact, I think we've burnt what I think it was somewhere around 1% of the supply, right?
Circulating.
Circulating. And so
That's amazing.
it's a yeah, I mean, like you said, literally coming around the table at at the 2022 bottom and just saying, "Hey, how can we make some of the most deflationary tokens out there?" And here is one of them, EeFi. And I mean, with the Elastic Vault coming here soon at some point, when it's just crazy to
Yeah.
think. I just posted a tweet actually just a few minutes ago that talked about the yield on Ample. The yield was 7%.
Yeah.
and we have
Yesterday. Yeah.
and we have millions within that's going toward that elastic vault. So I've seen some of the community kind of documenting the accumulation
Oh yeah.
of Ample. So I've been kind of keeping tabs and running the numbers, but 7% on a couple million that's a lot of EeFi being burnt, every day. And I mean, yield has been, well over 3% for the last what week and a half or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely. Yeah,
so
and I do want to commend our our community members, our new ones, all of them that are active on Twitter and other platforms, because they're really helping to spread the word and like spread understanding and education about like what we're truly doing here. So I commend everybody who's helping out in that way. Fantastic tweets, fantastic engagement. I appreciate everybody who's been helping on that tip.
Absolutely. I mean, if I could make a meme, it would be, Trojan horse. EeFi is the Trojan horse, but within it is Ample and Spot, and
And everyone's eating peas, making sure we get our
everyone's eating
greens.
pea.
Gotta stay healthy.
But there's so much to look forward to. But Peapod intern, you were talking a little bit about, or was it Solomon? You were talking about kind of, after Ohm, a lot of teams, a lot of projects kind of took note. They went back to the drawing board and they looked at that as kind of an example and said, okay, there was this kind of experiment that went on. Let's see how we can come back and make something that kind of is a level up, so to speak. And I think that's where this kind of Ohm 2.0 type of narrative started. I mean, what do you guys think about Ohm 2.0s, or just kind of that part of DeFi in general?
Yeah, I'd love to hear Meta's perspective on that, like the whole Ohm 2.0 moniker and what people have been pushing around that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think there's been necessarily anything definitive on what Ohm 2.0 is. I think there's been about 15 different iterations on an Ohm 2.0. And I think what I think is quite funny is you get a lot of people that come in and go, we've solved the issue with Ohm, not realizing that Ohm's kind of solved the issue themselves with range bound
Right.
solid, stability. Um,
Exactly.
I think, look, when I start to look at it, I think we had a little bit of a conversation yesterday about, exactly how EeFi works. And I think from my perspective anyway, it's the first thing that I've seen that's gone, we're going to step into the whole 3-3 model and we're going
Yeah.
to do something a little bit different. And I think it genuinely is different and comes at it from a different angle in that you're sourcing external revenue to help burn the supply and finding
Right.
your yield, socialized that way. I think it works much better than a lot of these other ones that we see out there that go, yeah, we're going to be a debasing version of Ohm, but never mind the fact that we've actually got inflation hidden as well that's
Right.
outpacing our debase, So I think that that's I think there's a lot of things out there that claim to be the next Ohm, but I think really there's not many that actually deliver on it. But I think what you guys are doing, the yield you're bringing through from Ample and just showing that you've actually put a bit of thought into the best way to approach your model, I think is really
Yeah.
paying dividends.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because one thing about this, Meta and Intern is that we've been game planning this moment for 2 years. So we're not a popped up in 2 weeks, held some fundraising and usually do. It's not one of those things, right?
Yeah,
There's a
there's none
lot
of
of
those.
right. There's a lot of thought and work and hours, and Chill knows there's a lot of thought, work, and hours that went into devising this and making sure that this iteration of what we're doing would actually last and would actually, once given the correct environment, would actually thrive. And so we're happy to see some of our mechanisms already taking off, and that it's not even we're not even close to being done in terms of what we can really do with this protocol. So I'm definitely excited for the future and what more we have to accomplish.
Yeah, one thing I really
Yeah,
liked when I started looking into EeFi was the
Yeah,
fact that you had information on your protocol dating way back. It was 6 months plus ago, you had information coming out about your protocol, and your
Yeah.
vision didn't really change at all. Like, you were pretty clear in what you were doing.
Right.
And teams that can stick to their vision, even when the market shifts and they know, no, we've
Yeah.
got something that's going to work, that's a sign usually of a team that's going to perform well. That was, early on with Peas, we had a small exploit, and
Yeah.
we had a lot of people in the community saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do that. And we just sat in the channel and we just said, you know what, guys, we know what we're doing. We know what we've built. We know what we've got. And we're just going to
Right.
trust it. And we backed it 100%. And then that's what got us where we are today. And I think it's really good to see teams that just have that conviction behind the models that they're building out and their direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think both of us, it's very much the long-term sustainability is the thing. So you guys are bringing in yield, and that's what makes it different to the original own model, to offset the inflation. So you got the burns that offset that, and long term, ideally and seems like it's going to be that way because you guys have been so successful so far in terms of the yield you're bringing in, like that'll more than offset that inflation as well. So having that long-term sustainability plan is super important, because we're not building protocols. You don't invest all this time and effort to have a protocol and just hit the current whatever's hot at the moment, and you get your 2 weeks in the sun and then everyone pivots to the next meta. It's more like we're going for this long-term protocols that we're building out that are sustainable, and these could be here for the next 10 years. And that's when if you're looking at the time horizon for all these burns and the yield that we're bringing in, like that's when the value is just going to keep compounding and compounding over that time.
Agreed.
And that's what makes I think that's what makes it so interesting. And that's why I love talking about the deflationary aspect of it, because there's just simply not going to be enough supply to go around when we're talking about the burns. But I think just kind of taking everything you guys have said so far, and taking putting that all together, I think what we're seeing, whether that be Peas or EeFi, is just a natural progression of crypto. I mean, every single cycle, one project seems to improve or seeks to improve on something from the last cycle, right? So whether it was Ethereum trying to be the premier L1 for things like DeFi, NFTs, etc., or whether it be like Solana trying to outpace or out innovate Ethereum, or even when it comes to gaming projects, you saw Axie Infinity was kind of the V1 of Web3 gaming, and now you have these actual playable, fun to play like FPS games and things of that nature. And of course, there's so many examples that we can choose from, right? Even the memes at some points are a little different, but ultimately it's all growth every single cycle. And I think EeFi and Peas are the pinnacle, the very pinnacle of that growth, and they're the face of that innovation that's happened from one cycle to the next, because you didn't just like piggyback on someone's idea and just kind of run with it. You came up with something completely brand new, something we've never seen before. And in the case of Peas and EeFi, you guys are here at the threshold of what may be one of the largest bull markets that we've seen to date. And so, with a focus on sustainability, sometimes I just wonder, like, where is this going to lead? Because essentially, my thesis on things like Ample Spot is that it'll help crypto kind of separate itself from TradFi, from major financial markets, from equities, etc. I think crypto is headed in that direction, but Ample and Spot, I think, will kind of be the catalyst for that. And I think with when you look at protocols like Peas and like EeFi, when they're so sustainable on their own, it just makes me wonder, man. And I have dreams about where we'll be in 12 months.
Parabola. Yeah, absolutely. And for us, because you remember I said earlier, or when we first started the conversation, One of the reasons I got into the space so very early on was because I was interested out of film school. I was interested in creating a stable coin. I didn't know it was a stable coin when I started, but essentially that's what I was trying to build. Now, a broke college kid isn't going to build anything like USDT, but I tried. I did try. And from my experience of failure, I was able to connect with different communities. For instance, BitShares community. If anybody knows Rune, who was the creator of DAI, I was there in 2015 when he was having the conversation of bringing DAI to the BitShares community. It was originally supposed to be in there. And obviously, they didn't end up getting on BitShares, but they did go to Ethereum, and the rest is history. So I was there for a lot of moments in terms of how the stability space or stability protocols, how that space sort of developed. And out of that, finally, we got rebasing. And anybody who understands rebasing and how it sort of brings a different model of stability to the decentralized stablecoin space, it was very innovative. End of 2017, going into 2018, and so Ampleforth, a spot. What it's become today is essentially the fulfillment of that vision, of that long-term vision of having a decentralized alternative to all of these stable coins that you see and the dollar itself. And it's very much primed, right? This time around, this cycle around, it's very much primed to take its spot in crypto history. And we're very happy with the direction that both tokens are going, obviously. And there's a lot more to come because anybody who knows who's behind Spot itself, if you're familiar with Brian Armstrong, if you're familiar with Coinbase and their investment in the protocols, then you should be able to put two and two together and see what's probably coming in the next year and a half. So, yeah, we're very happy with those two tokens.
Yeah, so in conjunction with that, what I'm gonna do real quick is I'm going to put a thread up in the nest for anyone that wants to kind of dig in a little bit to Spot and Ampleforth and kind of everything that Solomon just mentioned. I actually did some digging. I mean, I was really going in deep to Ampleforth at one point, and I wanted to kind of simplify it, and so I did that. So I'll share the thread up top here in a moment.
Yeah, it sounded like Solomon just dropped some alpha too. I'm
Oh,
definitely
did I?
research to do
My
now.
bad, Intern. Did I do that? Oh, my
I
bad.
don't-
Maybe I said a little too. My bad.
You piqued my interest at least.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, and one of the things that I've enjoyed about this space is meeting certain people, getting to know certain people that are in certain positions, and when you have those opportunities, you should take them and you should build things that that will help not only help the industry out, but help people to see the value of alternatives. And we definitely need an alternative to decentralized to stable coins in the US dollar, but one that's a unit of account and medium of exchange. And I think Ample and Spot are very much an answer to that issue.
Absolutely. I think I was working on another thread to kind of be an update to the one in the nest that I just pinned up top. And I worked on just the beginning, and the only phrase I can get out of my head was flat coins are the new stable coin standard. That's I only have the first sentence worked out on that. But that essentially is exactly right. I mean, you look at what stable coins are right now. I mean, you have your USDC, DT, and your DAI and things of that nature, but they're still they still bring fiat debasement into crypto,
Yeah, a lot
whereas
of
with
risk. Yeah.
yeah, and there's a lot of underlying risk. But with Ample and with Spot, it can really replace stable coins and kind of free us from TradFi. But that's another piece where I'm super excited. Again, I was saying earlier that I had dreams about where we'll be in a year, simply because I want to see, what Brian Armstrong does next. So I'm watching closely, to say
We all are.
to say the least.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
But that thread up top tells you all about it if you want to read about it. And what's interesting to note too, I don't know if anyone knows who Ray Dalio is. I'm sure many of us do. Um, he was actually talking about Spot on CNBC without even knowing it. He was describing something that would be kind of the perfect, inflation resistant money,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he didn't realize that. And but here we are. We have exactly that. And
Absolutely.
one of the biggest people in crypto right now knows about it. Brian Armstrong.
Absolutely.
Insane, insane. But with that said, man, let's kind of talk about sustainability for a quick sec. We kind of hit on it a lot, but one aspect, and I hate to use the word, um, let's say Ponzi-nomics. I hate to use it, but there is an aspect to the game theory that with at least with the ohm forks and the tomb forks of the last cycle, a part of the game theory required new market participants to constantly be coming in for that to be kind of the way the thing that drives growth with those
Yeah.
protocols. And I feel like with these 2.0s, specifically with EeFi and Ps, they've eliminated that need to constantly get new capital in. Rather, Ps relies on the volatility for its yield provision, and EeFi relies on ample. And so that, I think, speaks volumes to really how far the tech has come.
Yeah, well, I'll say we rely in the beginning to start out. There is a reliance on ample uh, as the main driver, but the beauty of EE and how it works is that over time we're allowed to diversify the treasury into other what we term growth assets, which are assets that are either rebase bearing, interest bearing, or yield bearing. And so when we diversify into these different classes of yield bearing assets, the yield from those assets are what would be used to buy and burn EeFi instead of just relying on Ample. Ample is just a great start for us. But the beauty of EE is that we diversify over time into other assets that are able to do either the same job at a less risky in a less risky environment, but have the same effect, or other revenue tokens that again do the same thing. So that for us, that's sort of what we're bringing that's certainly different. And maybe Meta or Intern want to answer about their sustainability.
Well, I wasn't going to talk about so much the sustainability, but more the OHM 2.0, the 3.3, because that's something that I guess we don't really discuss that much, and maybe this is the perfect opportunity. But there's very much a socialized aspect to Peapods as well, because all of the pods on any volatility are buying the P's token and distributing that to the LPs.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a finite amount of P's that can be bought from the market. Our 3.3 aspect is that, if you're holding the P's yield, the volatility yield, because P's, you can think of it as it's like a proxy for all of the volatility across all the pods is basically channeled into the P's token. 10% is burned forever. So it's like that's sort of locked in volatility in the token and increases our floor all the time. But the other 90%, obviously the LP can sell at any point that they want to. But if they hold on to it, any volatility across any of the pods keeps, creating that buy pressure. So the 3.3 aspect for us is effectively if everyone sort of holds their rewards rather than sell them straight away, the rewards of everyone goes up from volatility on any pod. So like I could just be holding my yield from last week from the EeFi pod, but then another pod starts yielding, and that increases my rewards that I earned. So that's sort of our socialized 3.3 aspect. And I guess the reason why someone would say that we're somewhat similar to OHM 2.0, or you've seen the P, P sort of appendage. So that's yeah, an interesting point from ours. But I'll let Meta talk about the sustainability point.
Cool.
Well, there's probably also one other point of the 3-3, which is actually kind of, it's almost an inverse version of it, where it's almost like a minus 3-3. So because there are wrap fees and unwrap fees, obviously, in the initial stage of setting up a pod, we're not relying on it, but we definitely get benefit of people coming in as speculation to wrap into a pod. But what that means is there's also the inverse. So if we've had plenty of people ask, oh, what happens if everybody unwraps out of a pod? Well, if everybody unwraps out of a pod, you're accruing more fees, and those fees are going to the people that remain in the pod. So in a sense, it's not the worst thing if everyone else leaves a pod and you're sitting in there still providing LP, because you can always still claim back to the assets that you've got underlying. But at the same time, you're also accruing fees for everybody else that leaves. That's not something we've experienced yet, but it's something that would be interesting to watch if it ever played out. The closest thing we probably had to it was when we did our first big upgrade from our original legacy pods up to our Green Arrow pods. But yeah, that's probably, I guess, another little game theory aspect that we've got that doesn't get spoken about a lot. As far as the
No, go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
As far as the sustainability side, like Intern mentioned, I mean, the fact that every bit of revenue comes from the market, I think one thing that really sets us apart from other protocols that are designed to incentivize liquidity is they can be really expensive. They either require a protocol to offer up their own tokens or get tokens from somewhere else. Those tokens are inevitably farmed and they're inevitably dumped. And over time, the more that dumping occurs, the less enticing the rewards are, and you lose all that liquidity and it's no longer sticky. The thing that works really well with Peapods is, even though our rewards are paid out in Ps, the rewards value is denominated in a dollar value based on the fees that are earned. So it's not actually, you don't get that same effect where even if everybody were to sell their Ps, those who are providing liquidity will always get the same dollar value of rewards regardless of what the P's price is. The only thing that changes is how many P's they receive. So what that means is that our model in terms of incentivization is 100% sustainable, because it doesn't matter what happens to the price of the rewards token. People will always earn the same amount of yield. So participation is always equally incentivized. And as a result of that, that means that there's more revenue coming, more buy pressure for Ps, which in turn pushes the Ps price back up. Right. So there's a sustainability that works on two fronts there.
Right, and just for, because Meta, one of the things we sort of observed when we did launch the EeFi Peapod, we call it Vault, you all call it Pods, the same difference for us. But one of the things we noticed was that people were sort of interested in understanding the CBR rate, because that's the rate that single-sided depositors or stakers, that is the rate that they earn. So could you sort of break that down for people, like how that works, and like give us the lowdown on that?
Yeah, perfect. That's a really good question. So I like to relate it as an exchange rate. So effectively, CBR stands for collateral backing ratio. So what it means is a part of the fees that we have that are accrued based on the pods, I think it's 30% for EeFi, is taken as the P token, so the PEFI, and it's burned. What happens then is, let's say over time, you have 1,000 EeFi sitting within the underlying of the pod.
Yeah.
And then you only have 900 PEFI in existence. That means you'd be able to claim 1.11 EeFi for every single PEFI that you unwrapped. So over time, you'll increase value. So the way I like to explain it is to think of it as an exchange rate. So when you wrap into the pod, you're paying the exchange rate. So you're paying the CBR. So you could wrap, if it was 1.05, for instance, you could wrap 1 EeFi and you get back 0.95 PEFI.
Right.
Then when you unwrapped, you would then unwrap again at the same exchange rate. So you would then be going from 0.95 back to 1 minus the wrap or unwrap fees.
Right.
The other part of it though, which again gets overlooked, but probably shouldn't be overlooked, is the fact that, remember, pods are liquid. So often wrapping and unwrapping is not the best path to take. You can make much better informed entries by buying and selling based on buying when the pod is underpriced versus its fair price, and selling when it's overpriced versus its fair price.
Right.
That way you actually avoid having to, a lot of people go, okay, I need to see CBR increase by wrap plus unwrap to see a profit. But that's not true. So the only time you're paying wrap unwrap is when you're minting or burning the pod token from existence. Much like, it's not the only way to get a stablecoin is not to have to mint or redeem or burn it.
Right.
You can trade it on the open market.
Exactly. And so, just for the audience, just so they understand, could you give us the ways that the CBR rate can increase? Because a lot of people are not. They had questions around that too. Is how does the CBR rate? Is it possible for the CBR rate to increase? What increases that rate?
Yep. Cool. So first of all, the CBR rate will never decrease because it's a ratio of how much underlying collateral there is versus how much of the pod asset there is. So that's one thing to note that I think some people sometimes get tripped up on. The CBR will increase. And so the way that it increases is a percentage of all fees that are earned by the pod. So all of the wrap and unwrap fees, all of the buy and sell fees that are set anytime an arbitrage occurs or someone wraps or unwraps from the pod. A percentage of those fees, which I believe is 30% for EeFi, is taken as P token and it's burned. So what that does is that means that there's less of the pod asset than there is of the EeFi sitting in the underlying.
Right.
Which means, and because it's a vault share, every single PEFI, whatever your percentage share of that is, of the total supply, you have a claim to that same percentage of the underlying collateral. So that would mean that over time, you'll be able to claim more than what you wrapped in.
Exactly. And so one of the things, obviously, Meta, that we've talked about that we're going to do specifically, because we are working on our new website, is that when the app launches, we will have a specific EeFi Peapod Vault section where people can actually do all of that from our website, wrap, unwrap, all of those things. And like I said, we're very invested in the pod because it allows us to do something we only wished we could do, and now we can actually do. So I appreciate you breaking that down for our audience. And if there's any other questions that people have around that, obviously there's a lot of the Peapod folks like 007. He's in the audience. I see you, and others who are always in our telegrams answering questions. And so we appreciate that, Meta.
Yeah, no problem. And I think what I might do is I'll just jump into, look, it's still 5 a.m. here, so I'll jump in later on today into your Telegram, and that way people can just at me if they've got any questions surrounding the pod, and I'm quite happy to answer.
Awesome.
Whenever I can, just to help clear some of those questions. That's not an issue at all.
Yeah, well, the great thing is that so much of the EeFi supply that is left to be actually created for our initial circulating supply, a lot of that will be entering the the EeFi Peapod vault. So we very much look forward to that, and how the performance is going to be over the next couple of months as some of this vested EeFi also unlocks. A lot of people have been pledging to enter that vault. So I look forward to seeing how it operates.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, it's the top performing pod that we have so far, and for this month. So yeah, it's performing really well at the moment. So yeah, congratulations on that.
Absolutely. Appreciate appreciate it.
And
There's
also
more
just
come.
to be well, that's some alpha as well, because if as new people wrap into the pod, that benefits that people are already in the pod. So
Exactly.
you can think of the pod as it's sort of like a time game. Time spent in the pod is the most favorable thing. So the longer you're willing to leave your tokens in the pod, the more effectively you benefit from that pod, because you benefit from new people wrapping in, you benefit from other people that get bored and unwrap out. So it basically becomes an incentive to just lock up your tokens in there, and then sort of benefit from the long term. So we create very sticky TVL from that, which is great. And just also to be explicit, you mentioned to Meta, on which events does the CBR rate go up? Just to be more explicit about that, it's every event that basically happens with the pod. So anytime someone wraps in, anytime someone unwraps, anytime someone buys, or anytime anyone sells. So those are the 4 events that will create yield for the pod that increases the CBR. And it's also important to note that when an arbitrage happens, so when a bot comes in, they will do 2 of those in a row. So they'll either buy the token and then unwrap it, or they'll wrap into the pod and then sell it. So they incur two fees sequentially when they do that. So that's why the arbitrage is so important, because really these bots are paying fees to the pod constantly. And I checked this morning, we're getting like about $100,000 in volume, trading volume, and it's basically all bots coming in and just constantly buying and selling. And that's with like EeFi's been pretty stable like the last couple of days as well. So there hasn't even been a lot of volatility. And just because of the sheer TVL that we've got in there, we've got 1.1 million in LP, which is quite a size. There's a lot of arbitrage events that are happening. So there's just constant yield just being generated all day long by these bots coming in and out and either wrapping or unwrapping. So it's really great.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
I can only imagine what happens when the vault launches. But that to think that we're one of the that EeFi is one of the best performing pods. I mean, so earlier on in the game, that's incredible. Right. Yeah, that's just a part, man. We're just getting started. Nothing hasn't even kicked off really yet. We have 2 flywheels under our belt. We still got 2 more powerful flywheels to go. So really looking forward to that, man. And like Solomon was saying, EeFi didn't really the staking of EeFi was something that they were going to put on the roadmap, but the fact that we already have it, it's already here. That's huge, and that speaks volumes about Peas as well, because I have a feeling when I look at Peas, just from my kind of like analytical brain, looking at Peas, a part of your success comes from the amount of pods that you have, and it just so happens that in a bull market, that's when the most amount of projects are being created every single day, every single week, every month. And so what you're looking at is the means for the success long term for Peas is really like right here in front of us. So you provide something that a lot of projects want / need. That's exemplified in EeFi, and I think there's going to be in the future many projects that kind of need this, that need the mechanics of the pods and the lockup and the staking, and I think they'll feel like that will benefit them. And so I think you guys are primed. You guys are well positioned, man. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, really appreciate that. And just what I mentioned before about the 3-3 aspect or the PP aspect would be, it's actually in your interest if the other pods, as we gain more pods and they're successful and have lots of volatility, that all creates buy pressure for the Peas token and burning tokens, which then anyone in your pod benefits from as well. So there's that cross-pollination across pods, which is, the platform's successful when all pods are successful. So, and you guys are really helping us, with that being our top performing pod of the month. So you're really helping even the other pods through that burn of Peas that you're doing every day from those arbitrage opportunities. So please have more volatility. Please, release the next parts of your protocols.
More marketing. We haven't even started pushing any of this out. We this summer is going to be an EeFi summer. So there's
love that. EeFi summer 2024. We love that.
Spread the word. We're coming. So there's and our pod will be front and center as a way for EeFi holders to again earn yield on their EeFi. So that's something that we very much look forward to.
The other aspect of that is, so as I believe Chill was saying, is that all these new products the products that come out in the bull, like as long if we can get them to create pods, our platform becomes a bit of like a marketplace for yield, because we're turning any of those ERC20s into a yielding token. So we're hoping that a lot of people visit our platform, just say, okay, well, because they don't need to wrap into a pod, they can just buy any of these tokens. They're all liquid, and so they're effectively buying a yield bearing version of whatever project. So they'll come to our UI and look for, well, what are the hot pods? What pods are successful? And at the moment, front and center, the number one pod is EeFi. So if you guys can keep it there, then hopefully we can direct some traffic towards your protocol as well. And at least when they come to our platform, they'll say, "Oh, what is this pod and why is it performing so well?"
Right.
And the other part I wanted to mention on that as well. Last month we ran a campaign with our top performing pod. We threw some extra P's rewards at it. So if we do that again, you guys are well primed to win that position as well. So
awesome.
That's good.
Absolutely, and we appreciate that. And Chill, I did want to allow people to sort of come up and ask questions if they want to. We have a number of special guests also, so if we can get that done, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone if anyone wants to ask questions or anything like that, feel free to request. We'll bring you up. All questions are welcome. Anyone is welcome. So just hit the request button in the bottom left, and then and we'll take care of you, man. And while we wait for some requests to come in, one thing I do like about Peas and EeFi is they allow for protocols to build on top of them, right? So you look at Ohm, and for example, and Ohm or Tomb, and you had so many forks, right? That diluted
Yeah.
liquidity, and it didn't really go through Ohm the protocol or even Ohm the token. It just went to all these hundreds of other Tomb forks or other protocols, and so but with EeFi and with Peas, they've improved upon even that aspect of it, where Peas allows any project to participate. So the funnel is wide open to take in as many projects as possible. And as we talked about earlier, it just so happens that there's going to be a ton of projects that are probably going to be looking for that. And then same thing with EeFi. I don't think we've shed enough light on it, and this is something I plan to cover in content in threads in the future. But the sub vault, I think that. I don't think a lot of people even really think about that, but that's really the next level. That's the next level for EeFi, allowing instead of creating, let's say, a quote unquote EeFi fork. If that's ever even a thing, you can actually build on top of the elastic vault, and you can actually use your token as well, or use another token to create that sub vault, and that will still buy and burn
Yeah.
EeFi. So it just kind of, both protocols kind of create a way for others, whether it be communities, projects, to build on top, and that's, I think, huge.
But yeah, that's one of the things I love about this iteration or this cycle, is that any of the projects that are being classified or seriously classified as quote unquote Ohm 2.0 projects, when you actually look at them, they're very unique. They're not forks of each other. And they're doing things that are based around real value propositions, and actually producing some form of real yield. So when you look at Peapods Finance, that's not something you can just fork and just hope and pray that you're going to get the same number. No, it actually, the people actually have to be attracted to your message, because volatility farming is so new. It's the same thing with us with amplified yield. Understanding the elastic vault, you can't just fork that message in and say, "Hey guys, come on." There's a lot of like understanding that needs to be pushed. There's a lot of hard work that goes into people understanding how the amplified yield is produced. So these are fat heavy protocols that once they succeed, the chance of just being forked to oblivion are very low. Not saying that people can't do it, but it's like it's not going to be something where it was like 2021 where everybody can just wake up tomorrow and your mama's got, Mama Dow, and she's raised 1 billion, and people are, because there's a 15 trillion% rebase rate that everybody's trying to earn. Like, it's not happening this time. So
And that's the other thing that I wanted to touch on real quick is the social coordination aspect. I know Peapod, Intern, and Meta were kind of going into that earlier, the kind of 3-3 game theory of it all. But just generally speaking about the communities of both EeFi and Peas, there is that social coordination that would increase the benefits that the protocol has to whether it be stakers and vaults, holders of EeFi, etc. um, and so that's something that, is very important to keep in mind because, it's not like these protocols are, these protocols are powerful by themselves, but amplified by their community, whether it be via, threads, tweets to kind of understand mechanics, whether it be the arbitrage that can be done or with the vaults, etc. I know you guys were going through that earlier, or even whether it be EeFi in terms of different ways that we can work with like the ample rebases and things of that nature. So there's a lot of social coordination. I think it just these protocols require um, or not require, but these protocols that the communities can really take them to another level, not only from an information sharing standpoint, but just the game theory side of things. So if we can seriously work together, just like Peas and EeFi are working together in terms of that vault that they have going. If communities can work alongside the projects, the teams, and each other, I think we can take this to a completely different level because essentially what we're looking at here is you have Peas that provides real yield, you have EeFi that provides real yield. And it just so happens that, throughout the bear market, real yield was a huge narrative. Maybe not so much now because everyone's paying attention to AI or Solana memes or base Ponzi's or whatever. Um, what you have to realize is crypto is slowly breaking away. We're getting to the point where we can kind of, stand on our own, if you will. And so, community members that kind of band together essentially you can help your protocol to be well positioned for what's about to happen because if projects no longer are requiring new investment to stay alive, such as projects like protocols like EeFi and Peas, if they don't require new investment to kind of stay alive all the time, they're kind of sustainable on their own from a long term point of view. It's just a matter of the community coming together to not only highlight that sustainability but work along with it.
yeah,
Very well
absolutely.
said.
So
Yep, absolutely, 1,000%. Did we because I know we're at the 1 hour mark, and of course we appreciate you, Intern. We appreciate you, Meta. I feel like we're probably gonna have another one in a couple months, another one of these conversations because things get crazy in the space, and I can just feel that that's probably gonna happen. We're probably gonna have to have another one of these because we have a new crop of users for both platforms. But we definitely appreciate you coming in, explaining a lot of Peapod Finance, the platform, how it works, volatility farming. Chill, I appreciate you obviously taking the helm of asking the questions and allowing both projects to sort of lay out their vision. I didn't know if did we get any requests? Because I know some people said that they were having issues requesting and trying to get up. I don't know if we got any requests though to come up and ask
no, I
questions.
didn't. I didn't get any
Because this
requests.
went so well, I just don't
However,
want the FUD to be, oh, but they didn't let anybody come up. Sell it to zero. We don't want any of that to,
no,
you
no,
know.
no. Let them sell it to zero so the vault
Right,
can
we're just
buy,
gonna
please.
exactly. No, but if people want to come up, please request.
Um,
Please request. So, you know.
And for anyone in the EeFi Telegram as well, if you have questions and you're having problems requesting, shoot your question in the EeFi TG,
Yeah.
and I'll ask it here, so that way everyone can get their uh,
Absolutely.
they can get their
Oh, I see Doc
questions
comes.
answered. But please sell it to
Right,
zero.
right. I see Doc. What up, Doc? See, Doc is up here. Doc.
My man,
Did,
welcome up, bro.
did someone say that we're going to sell? I'm happy to buy it all, guys. So please go ahead. It's really an honor for me to listen to you guys. Basically, my two biggest bags aligning so together and working well so together. So it's wonderful to see just some big brains that work together. I think it's wonderful, and it's really good to see that DeFi is really evolving and going towards sustainable yield and
Yeah,
working together. So I'm really happy, and this just basically confirms my feeling about you guys. I'm really excited for the future also. And yeah,
absolutely.
we're going to make this happen, guys.
Absolutely. You know, Doc, we appreciate you.
That's the
Absolutely.
That's the thing, man. I mean, no one realizes this, or maybe they do. But DeFi summer, it's been years. Where DeFi is genuinely overdue, for the high to be the highlight of the space, right? And I think P's EeFi, these are some protocols that can be the face of a quote unquote DeFi summer 2024, or what have you. So I'm really excited. Like you, Doc. I think these are two behemoth protocols. Working together. I think EeFi will just be a prime example of how a pod can benefit a project, and I think EeFi will. Be something that kind of highlights the usefulness and innovation that things like Ample and Spot have. I mean, a lot of times in crypto, it's price attracts attention, and that's and I think that will kind of draw some attention to the Ampleforth community. And hey, who knows? Maybe we'll maybe the EeFi community will be knocking on Brian Armstrong's door at some point. Hey,
Look, if we
giving
listen, if we
bringing his
make Brian
attention.
Armstrong rich, we're coming to knock on the door too. So just so everybody knows. Oh, you study?
I see a
Oh, you see
request.
one? Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and accept real
Okay.
quick. Yeah, let me see. But that would be funny. That would be a meme worthy moment, right? My man, Kaishi OPT. What's
How's it
going
going,
on,
sir?
bro? Hopefully I pronounced that correct.
Nah, you guys are good. Thanks so much for hosting the space. I feel like I really learned a lot. And I
Absolutely.
actually just had a question about more about what happens to EeFi during a bear market, actually, because I feel like that's
Yeah.
one thing that stood out to me when I was reading through the docs. So I know that I think you guys are saying that during a bear market, you guys provide yield by actually providing EeFi holders additional EeFi tokens. But I was kind of thinking that during a bear market, as people are, I guess, panicking and selling their EeFi,
Yeah.
and with this additional EeFi that's provided, you're kind of inflating the token. So I feel like that would worsen kind of the sell-off that would have happened. So I was kind of trying to rationalize what exactly you guys are
Yeah,
thinking in terms
absolutely.
of that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind. So one, even during bear markets, because this is important, uh, even during bear markets, you have uptrends or you have times when prices go up. So as long as, specifically with the Elastic Vault that prints EFI during quote unquote downtrends, as long as you have periodic uptrends or as long as the price goes up some or in some way, you always have an opportunity for EE, the game theory, to take place, meaning people coordinating or coming together to produce an amplified yield through that vault. So that's one thing to keep in mind is that as long as there are periodic uptrends or as long as price goes up, which it does in bear markets, then you can always jumpstart EE or people coordinating with the vault. The other thing to keep in mind that is extremely important, especially for the current market, is that the largest holder of the EeFi or the EeFi token is the treasury. And the reason why that is because as EeFi does well and better during this time period, it is able to diversify the way that it burns or the tokens that it uses to burn EeFi. And remember earlier, I mentioned three categories: yield bearing, rebase bearing, and revenue bearing. And there's also real yield bearing, but we won't talk about that right now. But the Treasury is able to diversify its holdings into these four categories, which takes away or diversifies the way that EeFi is burned itself. And so that's important to remember, especially for the bear market. So when the bear market comes, if the Treasury is still full of assets that are yield bearing, then there's always an opportunity to buy and burn EeFi. Does that make sense, Case or Caius?
Kind of. I think I
All
need
right.
to sit on this a little bit, but is there anywhere we can actually go to read more about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you come into the Telegram, we have a number of bot commands that have threads and other things, and including our Git book that sort of break these things down. So I'd be happy to help you out. If you come to our Telegram, we can take care of that.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
If I may add as well, like he was saying, that there are different ways of buying and burning EeFi,
Yeah.
right? The deflationary aspect of it is what really shines with this protocol. So when you look at revenue that comes from, remember, there are so many different, there are LSTs, there are
Oh yeah.
LRTs,
Oh
there are, like you said, rebase
Rebate. Yeah.
tokens, there are. So outside of even just the ample rebase itself, you have natural yield that's being generated from other sources within crypto, and from that you also have the buying and burning of EeFi. But then not only that, we also have sub vaults,
Yes.
right? So we still have those sub vaults, and I think that's
Mm.
a very underrated, underexplored, underappreciated aspect of EeFi, but soon to be appreciated. But that as well is something that will drive that deflationary
Aspect of
buying and
EeFi.
burning
Yep.
of EeFi.
Even
Yep.
during bear markets.
And
Um, if I may add,
absolutely. Eh,
just a small note on top of that is that,
Yeah.
you know, EeFi relies a lot of flat coins, right? So during a bear market, what people tend to do is, to stable up.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it can even be, a bullish for Ample when the bear market hits and when it becomes the standard for stable coins. So that's something to add on, and the same goes for peace, right? Because there's volatility always in cryptocurrency, and it makes it also so lucrative for all of us. So, and during the bear market, the volatility also rises. So both are basically most sustainable as you can get, even during the bear markets in whole space of DeFi. And how I see both Peapods as EeFi is like the last DeFi summer we had with Curve Finance, with Intern Finance, and with DAO and with
Yeah.
Aave. These two are the blue chips from the coming DeFi summer. And yeah, there is a lot of delusion at the moment because that's how basically the market moves during the bull market. But I think there will be shift to really sustainable and really good projects like these two. So for the long run, just sit back and relax, and we will all be good.
Absolutely.
And if you want some, I know you mentioned you wanted some reading material. If you click on my icon in my pinned tweet, you'll see a thread on EeFi, and I think that is a good kind of good intro, if you will, on some of the more some of the more important aspects of EeFi and the mechanics of it all. So that should help things to kind of be a little bit more simple or easier to understand. I know the docs can be a lot with ample and spot and all that stuff.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I've actually went through all your threads already, and I feel like I have a general understanding of EeFi, but
Yeah.
I think more so just diving deeper, really making sure that I know
Yeah.
exactly what's going on.
Well, the biggest reason why people compare us to Olympus, and Olympus is a partner of ours. Well, they like collaborating nowadays because the treasury is decentralized, but they've been a big help for us. The reason why Olympus gets, or we get the comparison, is because again, one of the major components of our flywheel is that we have bonding. So the same process that Olympus used to build that 4 point, that huge treasury that was 4+ billion dollars worth at one point, we have that same bonding process with EeFi. And that is what we're going to use to diversify the treasury into yield bearing assets. So assets that bear yield, and that yield will be used to buy and burn EeFi for as long as those assets are yield bearing. And we'll be looking for long term yield bearing type assets like SDI and others that are fortified or have a real world yield attached to it, long term speaking. So there's a lot of there's a lot of strategic plans that we have that are yet to be implemented, but will be implemented as the protocol picks up and gains more users and gains more notoriety around the crypto space. So yeah,
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
yep. Is that it, Chip, or did anybody else?
Yeah, I don't see. Let me just
Come
double
on,
check the
guys. Don't be
Telegram real
don't be
quick.
shy. Come on up. I know a lot of you have questions. Don't be shy. We don't bite.
Nice. Oh, whilst no other questions. Just see a lot of chatter in Telegram about they love the
Oh,
spaces.
okay, good.
VC cooking. And someone says, Doc, so sexy voice. They
They
love you,
love you,
Doc.
Doc.
They love you.
Well,
So,
just wait and see me in real life, man. It only gets better. So maybe I can add something because I know
Yeah,
there's
go
a
ahead.
lot of people asking in the Telegram, right, about marketing and who those KOLs are. So the thing that I want to say is those are your favorite KOLs within the space, and they have huge reach. So just if I may say, Solomon, is that just don't worry about that aspect. We got that.
Absolutely. They it's gonna be a fun year, man. It's gonna be a fun year, and I look forward to it. I'm very appreciative of everyone we have in our community. We have a number of high profile individuals who decided to put their faith and trust in this team, and so I very much look forward to continuing to produce and to continuing to output this protocol. That's exactly what's going to happen. So
man, well, what a wonderful space today, man. Peapod Intern, Meta World Peas. Love the
yeah,
name.
it's so
Jeez,
good,
love
dude.
the name.
It's so good.
It just flows, man.
You know how to win
But
someone over.
appreciate you guys for coming. Skills. But no, man, appreciate you guys for chopping it up with us and just kind of talking shop a little bit here. I mean, we've said it, but I'll say it again, two behemoth protocols coming together. I think, looking back a year from now, and I want to put this idea out there. Burn parties with peas would be a good idea,
Yeah,
Solomon, by the
yeah,
way.
oh yeah,
Sounds great.
That would be fire.
yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to where we'll be here in a year, and just you guys set the standard for everyone else, right? Ohm set the standard, everyone else followed, and they followed in terms of forks and trying to mimic the protocol, but you guys are now setting a standard, and instead of forking, they'll want to build with
Yeah,
you or build on top of the protocol. So early congrats to future success, man, for real.
absolutely.
Thanks for that, Chill. That's great.
I mean, absolutely, man. I mean, any last words for the audience? I don't know, Solomon, if you want to start closing it out, or I don't see any questions or anything coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate everybody coming through for our first spaces with Peapod Finance. Appreciate Meta and Intern coming through. Chill yourself also, who is our one of our resident whales and EeFi expert, the most expert, even sometimes over me. Um, and we appreciate everybody coming out. We will try to hold more spaces. We'll eventually get to community spaces also when that time comes. But this is the first of many because there are a lot of projects that are looking to partner with us. There's a lot of projects that we're looking at. Obviously, we want to make sure they're high quality, like Peapod Finance. We want to make sure the people who we're partnering with make a lot of sense for the protocol. And so expect more of this. And yeah, we appreciate you coming out.
Much love, guys. Appreciate
Thank
you
you, Meta.
guys.
Thank you, Intern.
To everyone in the audience as well. Appreciate you guys for setting out the time to come and listen into the spaces. Of course, I'm always in the Telegram, the TG for EeFi. So is Solomon. So feel free to send any questions there if you didn't get to ask any in here. And of course, the P's team as well will be available to answer questions wherever. So appreciate you all. Love you all. Wish you guys the best. And, looking forward to where we are a year from now.
Absolutely.
Much love, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Chill. Thanks, Solomon.
Yes, sir.
Thanks from Intern as well. He's not able to speak for some reason at the moment, but
I can see that. Yeah. Thank you, Intern. Thank you, Meta. Appreciate it.
thanks, guys. This was great. Love to do it again.
Yes, sir.